September. So now we are actually launching another one. So I'll give you a bit of time to change your answers if it is possible. And then I saw the number 2. It's amazing that some of you answers 30% on the choice of C, like electricity tariff hikes in several ASEAN member states. I would definitely reiterate that it's not the highlight of that. So maybe you want to keep in mind. Okay, I think the time is up and we already seen some final results. May I check with the ICT teams to end the poll? Okay. So as you can see now, hopefully you can actually see, but the answers of each questions is that the first questions on the 2 reports that we are going to launch is not the 7 ASEAN Energy Outlook because it's already published in September. So probably you need to kind of like check our website again in go.aseanenergy.org/AEO7. But the answer is that we are going to launch the 2022 ASEAN Energy Insights, and the second report would be the outlook on ASEAN Energy 2023. And then the number 2 would be the answers is just energy transitions partnerships announced in Indonesia and Vietnam, but not yet in Thailand. So you probably need to take a bit of that details. And then for the third one, because all of them are correct answers, we just take note on what your views are about that. So thank you so much for participating in the pre-quiz before we started all of the presentations and exciting moment of today's webinar. And next, we would like to invite all the speakers to turn on their camera because we are going to take pictures. May I check if we have all of the speakers already here before we move on? Okay, so may I check? Probably Mr. Yuda would be a bit late, so I'll just check with you to take pictures now, and then we are going to take another one if one of our panelists is actually here already. So may I check with the team? Okay, in 3, 2, 1, everyone smile. One more round in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I hope it's perfect, the pictures. So thank you so much. Now we are going to move on to the next one, would be the scene setting presentations by Dr. Ambia Abdullah. She is a senior researcher at the Energy Modeling and Policy Planning Department of the ASEAN Centre for Energy, in which she will present the scene setting of what is actually why we are taking the team today, and what's the relations with AEO7, and what's the relations with what's actually happening with the ASEAN energy trends. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Ambia to take your time for these presentations. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Can you hear my voice? Yes, okay. So today I would like to give a presentation about the scan setting for today's webinar topic. So we are currently, as mentioned by my colleague Amira, we are announcing 2 important reports that's timely relevant to the global discussion. Is related to the redesign ASEAN Energy Security as a part of the global response for the global energy crisis at the moment. So as we all aware about the current global energy crisis, actually is not the first time we experience since several decades that we have experienced the global oil crisis and global gas crisis. As also we are also aware that each country in this global era is interconnected each other. So it means like one external event happens in one country will eventually affect another country case through the global supply chain. So next slide, please. So when we talk about the impact of current global energy crisis that happened in October 2020, actually the 2020 global energy crisis had impacted significantly on global economy worldwide, particularly in emerging and developing countries in Europe and Central Asia. Why these two countries? Because these two countries actually are strongly interconnected with the Russia and Ukraine of the global energy crisis. And the World Bank in 2020 predicted that the GDP growth of this region, emerging and developing countries in Europe and Central Asia, is projected to fall by minus 4.1% in 2020. Also, World Bank also predicted that some, or we can say majority of the countries in this region also fall into the recession. And as an effect of the decrease of the GDP growth, we also found that FDI inflow and outflow, means like from other countries going to emerging and developing countries in Europe and Central Asia, also found decrease, and severe, or we can say is like a very hard situation for the currency exchange rate for the some country, especially for like US dollar and Japanese yen, and also the euro, and high inflation. Also, the most important and relevant with our webinar today is the shortage of fossil fuel supply at global market, with cost like when the demand is still on the same condition, but the shortage of the supply happens. So as a result, surge price of fossil fuel and also agriculture good from Russia and Ukraine also increase without any, how to say, cannot be projected. And actually, from this global energy crisis happen, we also got the important lesson for all the country, because most of the country feel kind of the wake up call for rethinking and redesigning energy security to be better prepared for any external shock may happen along the global energy supply chain. So if we think about the global energy supply chain, any external shock is not only about the shortage of the fossil fuel, but also if the major key supplier of the fossil fuel also experience like extreme happen, like when what's happened in Japan in 2011, that Japan experienced very huge of the earthquake that also caused a shortage of the some gas and electricity supply. That may people think that it only happen and affect the Japanese situation, but actually is also transferred to other countries as well. Next slide, please. So now we talk about how is about the ASEAN position in global supply chain of natural gas, because we talk about the global supply chain energy crisis that's mostly happen on the fossil fuel. That's we talk about natural gas, oil, and also coal. And we would like to know first, before we think what would be the possible action or policy need to be taken by the ASEAN for redesigning energy security, we must know that how is about position of the ASEAN in the global supply chain of natural gas. So based on the international trade data, ASEAN has trade surplus of natural gas because ASEAN export a larger amount of natural gas to the world market than import. And in terms of the each ASEAN country position, we found that Malaysia has better position. Why? Because as is shown in this figure, Malaysia export much more than importing the natural gas from the global supply chain. So theoretically, when the country export more to the world market, it means the country has more control over the supply of the specific commodities. And in other hand, when the country position in importer, actually the country have a higher risk in global supply chain, because the country domestic situation will depend significantly on the what happened in other country along the global supply chain. And in terms of natural gas, among other ASEAN countries, we found that Thailand, Singapore, and Indonesia have higher risk in global supply chain of natural gas, because this country have much more import than their export. Next slide, please. And when we look into more detail, like which country of two key importer of natural gas from ASEAN, we pick up Thailand and Singapore. Actually, Thailand and Singapore import of natural gas from other ASEAN countries for 38% for Thailand. So means Thailand domestic security of the natural gas supply depends for 38% of other ASEAN countries. And the second figure, we found that Singapore depends about 62% of their natural gas domestic supply on other ASEAN, particularly on Indonesia for 49%, Malaysia 13%. Others we can see is depends on the other APEC countries like Australia, and also other countries like Egypt and Qatar. Next slide, please. So we note the ASEAN position in the global supply chain of the of the preface. And the second one is we would like to know about ASEAN position in global supply chain of oil. So most of ASEAN countries are positioned as a big importer of oil, which is not really good news at the moment, and have trade deficit along the global supply chain of the oil in 2021. We are aware that we use only 1 year data, which maybe is not how to say, I mean, that is significant maybe question, but we have also checked for the 10 years data series that's available from UN Comtrade. That is also not really big changes for the position. And Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia are at riskier position compared to other countries. Why? Because we see from the figure that Singapore import more compared to its export of the oil, and Thailand is the same position, and also Indonesia. Brunei and Malaysia actually are at better position compared to other ASEAN countries, because we see the a bit balance between the export and import value of Brunei and Malaysia. Next slide, please. And in terms of the coal, we have a bit better news in this global supply chain of the coal. In terms of the ASEAN position, Indonesia is only country among ASEAN which is positioned as key exporter of coal in global market in 2021. Means Indonesia have a significant control of the global supply chain of the coal compared to other countries. But a bit bad news is most of ASEAN countries is positioned as importing countries, which is not really good. And Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand at the most risk position among other ASEAN countries. Yeah, next slide, please. So when we talk about the fossil fuel global supply chain, actually the any external shock of the what happened along the global supply chain will not only affect the sector itself, but also the effect will be transferred to both countries along the global supply chain that have strong interconnection, but also the effect also will be transferred to major upstream industry, means the industry which depend, which supply the input for this coke, in fossil fuel coke, refined petroleum and nuclear. We pick up one example from Indonesia, and then we found in Indonesian case, actually the major upstream industry of fossil fuel, mining and quarrying, import and financial intermediation, which account for 80% share of the total intermediate input. So the simple explanation of this, so if, for example, in case of the supply of coke or demand of coke, refined petroleum and nuclear fuel in Indonesia decrease by 1%, this mean also decrease of the output for this major upstream sector, because the supply input for this sector will be decreases as well. Next slide, please. And the impact also transfer to major downstream industry. Downstream industry means the industry which use coke, refined petroleum and nuclear fuel in Indonesia as their major input when they processing for the producing their sector. And we found that household consumption, transport, construction, and export are key major downstream industry for fossil fuel in Indonesia. So we found that the share account for 66%, which mean we all may aware, for example, if the government apply some or reduce the subsidy on the electricity or gas or any fossil fuel on the household, that mean this will affect on household consumption of this fossil fuels, mainly because household consumption is one of the major industry that depends on the fossil fuel as their consumption, and also transport and construction and export. Next slide, please. So maybe in summary, after we examine the current ASEAN position in global supply chain of the fossil fuel, we can put this following recommendation or suggestion. For example, like Singapore, Cambodia, and Malaysia, we found the GDP growth in 2020 decrease for -1.1%. For Singapore, -1.1 point, sorry, not percent, for Singapore, and 0.6 for Cambodia and Malaysia, which mean why this happened? Because actually these three countries, we found that these three countries highly depend on gas, oil, and import that's from the global supply chain. Although the current global energy crisis doesn't affect ASEAN country indirectly, but to some extent, the effect is still transferred to these three countries, Singapore, Cambodia, and Malaysia. And then diversification of the trade energy flow of ASEAN in global supply chain needs to be reset and be prioritized. At the moment, the current energy supply of ASEAN depends or highly linked with other ASEAN countries. In some extent, it's good because we depend along the ASEAN, but in another part, for the some fossil fuel maybe need to be diverse with the more supplier or more on the other countries. That's also important in the global supply chain. And then redesign ASEAN energy security depends not only on ASEAN position, because that's only one factor, but also depend on fossil fuel trade characteristic, means like whether the country has more export than import or has more import than export, will also determine the policy needs to be designed for the each domestic country energy security. And ASEAN region also in terms of the clean energy, because now we are entering the just energy transition and energy transition era, it may be also good if the redesign ASEAN energy security will also link between the supply chain of the fossil fuel with the clean energy of the ASEAN position. And as mentioned, moreover, the spillover impact of the fossil fuel also transfer to other major downstream and upstream sector need to be also considered by the policymaker. And the good news is currently ASEAN is strengthening its cooperation under ASEAN Power Grid, Trans-ASEAN Gas Pipeline, and ASEAN Petroleum Security Agreement. I think that's a good effort for securing energy in ASEAN. Okay. Yes, thank you for your time. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ambia, for your presentations. I think it definitely provides us with more insights regarding to what is actually exists right now and what is actually like the plan ahead using the 7 ASEAN Energy Outlook. So for now, without further ado, I would like to invite the next. This is actually the first presentations, the launch presentations of the 2022 ASEAN Energy Insights. So we have here Ms. Sylvira Ayu Rosalia, our Energy Statisticians and Data Visualizations Officer at ASEAN Centre for Energy, who will actually present what is actually the ASEAN Energy Insights for the past year in 2022. Without further ado, Ms. Sylvira, the time is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Amira. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants of this webinar, good afternoon from Indonesia. My name is Sylvira. Here, I will present on the 2022 ASEAN Energy Insights. This is the highlights from ASEAN Energy Security that we have compiled. Next slide, please. Yeah, this Energy Insights is insight analysis based on collected news for a certain period of time throughout the ASEAN Energy Database System that we have compiled the ASEAN Energy News Clipping over the years 2022. We have compiled the news and published to our subscriber every Thursday. Here, this edition, we provide an annual recap on energy situation and highlights, which covered 4 categories as part of energy indicators. On fossil fuel, which cover oil, gas, and coal, and then electricity, renewable energy, and energy efficiency, which also include electric vehicles. Additionally, as part of our dissemination, we already post the infographics for each summary of our energy insights in our social media. So you may aware that we have already have a summary on this insight. So for the detailed report, you can download in our website. Next, please. For the as a highlight to maintain the energy resilience and sustainability for the fossil fuels, the global energy crunch resulted in robust demand and tight supplies in fossil fuel sectors. The government and industry started to sense the impact of the geopolitical conflict and encounter the challenges. However, the year 2022 would be a turning point for ASEAN member states to address the energy security with consideration towards the clean energy. Several policies related to fossil fuel sector implemented to ease energy price shocks. The coal, oil, and gas industry also follow the path in the transition into cleaner and more resilient energy. And then in terms of electricity, the disrupted energy market caused uncertain electricity prices. The power interconnection also expanded to maintain energy security and sustainability. Adoption of digital technology is expected to bring significant benefits to the power sector dealing with energy transformation. In terms of renewables, commitments to renewable energy have allowed green economic growth. The policy framework is improved to enable the easy adoption of renewable energy. Solar is still spearheading the growth of renewables in the region along with hydropower, while currently the focus has been expanded to the development of biomass. In terms of energy efficiency reinforcement, the focus of energy efficiency has been intensified through several incentives, which the region have installed the energy efficiency technologies, including the in transportation sector. The region also joined the EV revolution as part of their energy efficiency measures. Next, please. In terms of fossil fuel, here the detail highlight on the fossil fuel for the global on the global instability impact on fossil fuel. After the deep pandemic, ASEAN experienced shockwave in global energy markets, and fossil fuel price had been on have uncertainty fluctuation. In Q1, Indonesia banned coal export and attempt to strengthen a coal delivery monetary system. For the Q2, Thailand cut the excess tax on diesel for 3 months to mitigate the high energy price. On the Q3, Vietnam boosted domestic coal production during the rising import prices. On Q4, Cambodia import oil increased up to 66% over the same period last year. Next, please. And for securing energy supply and respond to the crisis, some countries like Indonesia quickly face deficit domestic coal by strengthening the coal delivery monitoring system. On the natural gas, the cooperation among oil and gas industry to continue exploring resources has affected the increased production in the existing gas fields. In terms of Malaysia, discover oil and gas on the coast, discover a new source of natural gas that could increase the national oil and gas reserve. And measure towards the clean energy transition, we report that Thailand National Energy Company built zero emission oil tankers, and from the Malaysia, the energy market provider facilitated the natural gas exchange to provide jobs and cleaner energy. In Vietnam, the National Oil and Gas Group signed agreement with financial institution. This is ASEAN Development Bank to engage the energy transition, and like Indonesia also the region has have a strong measure involving role of fossil fuel towards the clean energy transition. Next, please. On the electricity sector, the year 2022 was started with increased energy demand due to post-pandemic economic growth. This came with expected slight rise of electricity tariff due to the recovery of global fossil fuel price. And as we compare some news here, Singapore have electricity bills high due to the increase of gas tariff. From Malaysia, there is no electricity tariff in early year 2022. From Malaysia, from Philippines, the country lowering the electricity rate due to the reduction of generation charge. And to measure, to maintain the energy price stability, some countries develop some measure to ease the fluctuation of electricity tariff. With Singapore provide long-term fixed price electricity contracts for business consumer. Cambodia provide subsidies to help electricity tariff, and Thailand wanted to produce its own electricity to combat the rising energy cost. Next, please. And in terms of power connection, alongside the global price instability, countries eager to develop their energy infrastructure to maintain energy security and strengthen regional energy supplies by making cross-border power internet connection. As one of this implementation is LTMS PIP agreement between Laos, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. And for sustainable pathways, some countries strive to meet their increasing energy demands. Green energy financing and clean energy investment had been a focus in recent years. The region seeing a significant electricity installation in 2022, with several countries announced plans and investment to increase their capacity in this area. Next, please. In terms of renewable, some countries have accelerating the initiative and commitment towards green economic growth. From Vietnam, this country decided to establish a renewable energy center to fulfill net zero carbon commitment. And from Laos PDR, this country built solar power plants in response to sustainable energy development. And from Indonesia, proposed solar facility to power the potential green hydrogen plant. And for in terms of sustainable energy initiative, we also collect the highlight from some countries. In terms of Thailand, the country started operation the world's largest hydro floating solar hybrid installation. And from Singapore, the country conducted a joint feasibility study on the wind, solar, and tidal for a hybrid renewable energy system. Next, please. Strengthening some countries also strengthening regulation and enhance clean energy investment collaboration to optimize the benefit from increasing the capacity of RE power plant. They enacted regulation and explore collaboration with several stakeholders to enhance clean energy investment, like from Malaysia that implement renewable energy roadmap targeting 18 gigawatt renewable energy by 2035, and Vietnam updated the direct power purchase agreement pilot program mechanism for renewable energy. From Philippines, the country introduced a priority dispatch policy for renewable energy resources for 100% foreign investment equity. Next, please. In terms of energy efficiency reinforcement through exhaustive measures is the key crucial task that emerged amidst global energy crisis. Many governments had urged to conserve the energy and reduce the utility as they experience the shortage. Like the countries also have implemented the green technology towards the energy efficiency implementation on how energy is supplied and consumed. The digitalization can assist countries to conserve more efficient energy, particularly during the global energy crisis. And from commitment to action, EV revolution as part of energy efficiency, the year 2020 marked on the record consumer energy that increasingly to turn to energy efficiency become an urgent political and economic imperative for the governments. Therefore, the electric vehicle present a major role in conserving energy for more efficient on the road that the implementation. Given the region potential EV market, many governments committed to join EV revolution to solve both of export and domestic markets. Next, please. Yeah, thank you. This is the end of my presentation. For the complete and detailed information, please download form part of our insight in our website. Thank you for your attention. Back to Amira.
Thank you so much. I apologize for the technical issues. Thank you so much, Ms. Elvira, for your presentations. Now I would like to invite the next presentations. It is actually a launching presentations. So before we have the the main event, which is the panel sessions that we have. We have Ms. Rika Safrina here for the presentations of Outlook on ASEAN Energy 2023. So after understanding what is actually the energy trends in the past year in 2022, now we are going to somehow let you know about and try to project what is the outlook on ASEAN Energy 2023. So without further ado, Ms. Rika, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Amira. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished panelists and participants of the webinar, my name is Rika Safrina from the ASEAN Centre for Energy. Allow me to present to you our Fresh from the Oven report with title Outlook on ASEAN Energy 2023. The report provides key insights into Southeast Asia's energy situation in 2023 with these 4 topics. The first one is called the emergence of ASEAN energy security under the global crisis, where it discusses about energy security position of ASEAN, especially in terms of fossil fuels export-import. The second insight is ASEAN's global commitments to energy transition, which looks at the climate action plans of each ASEAN countries and how they strategize international public support. The third topic is tracking ASEAN energy targets and policies that monitors the energy transition targets of ASEAN. Last but not least, the ASEAN energy priorities, explaining about ASEAN's chairmanships under Cambodia last year, and also new energy priorities under Indonesia's chairmanship this year. For the first insight, my colleague Dr. Ambiah already explained it in more detail during her presentation, so I will not talk too much on this. Just a snapshot from the first insight is that in terms of natural gas global supply chain, Thailand, Singapore, and Vietnam are vulnerable due to their high import dependence. Although Indonesia has a significant import share of natural gas import, significant remittance of Indonesia's export cover the import. And then in terms of oil, ASEAN is home to many oil productions, especially in Brunei Darussalam, but collectively, the imports outweigh the exports. Therefore, ASEAN has a higher risk in the global supply chain of oil due to its importing position. And then in terms of coal, Malaysia and the Philippines are highly dependent on the global coal supply compared to other ASEAN countries. On the right side here, according to the 7 ASEAN Energy Outlook, the region has been a net importer of oil since before 2005 and is expected to be gas net importer by 2025 and coal net importer by 2039 without any policy intervention. Even in the most ambitious scenario, with national and regional policies, ASEAN could prolong natural gas imports only by 1 year. So with this urgent energy security risk, ASEAN will need to step up its energy climate mitigation actions. The second insight is about ASEAN's global commitments to energy transition. As agreed in the COP26, all parties needed to revisit and strengthen their climate plans before COP27. However, only 4 out of 10 ASEAN countries submitted their enhanced or updated NDCs in 2022, including Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, with these new targets, as you can see in the slide. This year, COP28 will convene from 13 November until 12 December in the United Arab Emirates. Hosted by one of the largest oil producers in the world, COP28 will be interesting to showcase the role of fossil fuel sectors in the climate agenda. The 2023 Climate Summit will also mark the first global stocktake. It is an essential feature of the Paris Agreement. It is a regular official check-up on the parties' NDCs in all areas to report and review what progress has been made, also to see the gaps, challenges, and opportunities. The global stocktake will aim to strengthen individual and collective efforts for the second NDC, which is scheduled for 2025, about 5 years after the first one. All parties, including ASEAN member states, need to ensure the accuracy, accountability, and transparency of global stocktake by enhancing their own capacity to track emissions inventory, both top-down and bottom-up approach. The Southeast Asia Energy Transition Mechanism. It was launched in COP26 by ADB. It has progressed significantly. ETM is an innovative model which would use blended finance to accelerate the retirement of coal power plants and develop clean energy to replace it. The partnership aimed for the transition in Indonesia and the Philippines as the pilot countries. Both are heavily reliant on coal. In November 2022, ADB signed an MOU with Indonesia to accelerate the termination of a 660 megawatt coal-fired power plant in Cirebon by providing senior debt. This model later on can be applied to other IPPs in Indonesia and even wider in the Asia Pacific. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, there is a feasibility. They are preparing an investment plan under ACT program by Climate Investment Funds. In 2022, two ASEAN countries also received support from developed countries under Just Energy Transition Partnership or GETP. Indonesia, the partnership with Indonesia was launched on 15 November during G20 summit in Indonesia. It was to mobilize about $20 billion over the next 3 to 5 years for transition in the power sector. The partnership aims to develop GETP investment and policy plan by May 2023 to support the following targets as shown in this slide. The partnership with Vietnam aims to develop a GETP resource mobilization plan by November 2023 to support these following targets as seen in the slide. The next insight is about tracking ASEAN energy targets and policies. Based on the regional targets, IMS have set out to achieve 23% RE in TPS by 2025. This year will be a decisive milestone towards this target. In 2020, the RE share in TPS reached 14.2%. The projection shows a slight change in the baseline scenario with 14.5%. The improvement in national renewable policies will affect the growth of RE by 16%. However, this effort needs to be strengthened by raising individual member states' targets to meet the aspirational target in APS to reach 20.3% by 2023. To fill the gaps, member states have the opportunity to strengthen efforts by adding the minimum renewables of 28 MTOE in the primary energy supply, depending on availability of the potential resource. Another regional target is monitoring the RE share in installed power capacity. ASEAN is on track to achieve the regional target of 35% RE share in installed power capacity by 2025 under various scenarios. Renewables in the 2020 power capacity amounted to 33.3%. In 2023, the RE installed capacity in the baseline scenario will be about 34%. The projection noted that the regional target will be exceeded to 38.6%. The next target is energy intensity reduction from 2005 level to reach 32% by 2025. If the AMS achieve national targets, ASEAN will substantially progress in reducing energy intensity by 26.9% in 2023. With few remaining years before 2025, it is crucial to accelerate energy efficiency measures. Several AMS are currently preparing new or updated energy regulations that are expected to launch by 2023. For example, Cambodia plans to roll out a new national energy efficiency policy in an effort to slow the energy demand growth rate by at least 20%. The country will also launch power development plan until 2040 to address high power cost and energy shortage. Meanwhile, Malaysia is currently drafting the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act, which is expected to be approved by 2023. On the other hand, Singapore's energy regulator will introduce new emission standards for new and repower fossil fuel fire power generation units in 2023. Meanwhile, Vietnam's Power Development Plan 8 or PDP 8 is the primary power planning instrument for the period until 2030 with a vision towards 2050. It was initially scheduled to be released in 2020, but remains pending until now. So the last insight is about ASEAN's chairmanship. This year, Indonesia holds its 5th round as the chair of ASEAN, right after hosting its first presidency of G20. The theme ASEAN Matters, epicentrum of growth, intends to ensure ASEAN's unity, centrality, and resiliency in facing global challenges. Indonesia revealed the 4 main priorities, with one of them is energy security. The strategic position of Indonesia can be expected to push for robust progress on interconnectivity, as the country has not yet connected to the regional multilateral power trading scheme. It shows in this energy annual priorities for Indonesia, which includes power interconnection, sustainable energy financing, mobilization of energy investment, bioenergy, emerging clean energy innovation in remote areas, smart and digital energy management, conversion to EV, as well as CCUS. For more details, please read the report Outlook on ASEAN Energy 2023. You can download it for free from our website here. Thank you very much for listening. Back to you, Amira.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Rita, for your presentations. I think what you've already presented about would be a good starting discussions points for our panel sessions today. So after the presentations and launch of the 2 reports, we are going to enter the main event of today's webinar, which is the panel sessions, moderated directly by our Executive Director, Dr. Nuki Agia Utama. And then we have 4 very impressive panelists. We have the president of Asia Pacific Energy Research Centers. We have National Energy Council from Indonesia. We also have IEA, and we also have our experts here at ACE. So without further ado, I would like to invite all panelists to turn on their camera so that we can actually have a very flexible discussions and a very fruitful 40 to 50 minutes discussions that would be good to also inform the participants of today's energy security theme. So allow me to invite Dr. Nuki for a second.
Thank you very much, Amra. Glad to be here, starting this session. Good afternoon, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, around the globe. Good morning, perhaps some part of the world that you also attending this special session. And have a nice day. I would like also to thank our great panelists. Dr. Kusumatu Iri, long time no see, sir. How are you doing? Hope you are well. And also, I would like to welcome Mr. Satya Widya Yuda from Indonesian National Energy Council. Good afternoon, Pak Yuda. I've heard a lot about you. Thank you for attending this session. And also, I would like to welcome Mr. Atoru Muka from IEA. I think you're part of the world still in the morning, right? So good morning for you, Muta-san.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Nuki. Good morning.
Just do not want to waste your time. And of course, before start, just want to congratulate our MPP Pillars Parliament team for the launching of these 2 important report on the energy news recap or insight 2022, which is looking back, highlighted a new throughout 2022, and also the outlook in 2023, an energy trend and trajectory report for 2023, which is I think is quite state-of-the-art report that done by the team congratulation team, and also would like to congratulate again the launching last year our ASEAN Energy Outlook 7, which is our flagship report on providing the energy landscape information as well as the future projection of the energy demand and supply up until 2050. Again, congratulations. So first, I would like to invite three panelists here and want to introduce the first panelist, Dr. Kazumoto Irie. He is a president of APERC and managing director of IEJ, and he had worked mainly in energy and trade policy, including a posting at the Japanese embassy in Canberra, Australia, and in policy planning and studies at the Research Institute of Economy, Trade and Industry, or RIETI. And after retiring as a Director General of the Training Institute of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry in 2008, Dr. Irie worked at the University of Tokyo as a professor in charge of research and education on nuclear policy and law until 2012. And now he is a part-time lecturer in my also alma mater university and graduate school, which is Graduate School of Energy Science, Kyoto University. So in fact, we are the same alma mater in Sensei. And the second panelist, I would like to introduce you, Mr. Satya Widyayudha.
Yeah.
He is a president-appointed member of National Energy Councils of the Republic of Indonesia for 2020-2025 period. And Mr. Yuda has extensive experiences in the oil and gas industry, both domestically and overseas. And he is also an expert on the energy geopolitics and economics with a focus on Indonesia, China, and Vietnam, and further specialized in energy security, energy subsidies, US-Indonesia energy issues, strategic relations, national oil companies, and climate change. I think it's very important highlight background, Mr. Yuda, the energy security, energy subsidies. And previously, he was a member of parliament and served as a vice chairman of commission, the first commission of Mission 1 in the House of Representatives of the Republic of Indonesia, overseeing defense, foreign affairs, communication, and intelligence. And before then, as a vice chairman of Commission 7, which oversees the energy and mineral resources, including the environment and forestry, higher education, research and technology in the country. And he has also chaired the Green Economy and Alternative Energy Caucus of the House of Representatives since 2021. Welcome, sir. And the last panelist is Mr. Toru Muta. He was appointed as a senior energy analyst, energy supply and investment outlook division in the International Energy Agency in 2020. As senior energy analyst, he leads Southeast Asia region, focusing on energy outlook as well as work for the World Energy Outlook. The IEA's flagship publication and analyzes a medium to long-term global energy landscape and for the role of critical minerals in clean energy transition, which explores the role of key minerals for clean energy transition. I think it's very important, the word or the keyword of minerals right now. He also leads the agency analysis on the fossil fuel subsidies, including its regular study focusing on global fossil fuel consumption subsidies by price gap approach. And last but not least, our senior officers, Dr. Ambia Abdullah. She is a senior researcher at MBPAs, conducted long work experiences as a postdoctoral research in university in in Japan. So we'd like to have a big applause for this all four panelists. So I would like to invite Dr. Kazumoto Ire for 3 minutes introduction and scene setting based on your experience, Ire Sensei. Please, the time is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Otama, for your kind introduction. I'm Kazutomo Irie, the president of Asia Pacific Energy Research Center, APAC, which is a think tank established for energy policy cooperation under the framework of APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. APAC's flagship project is a long-term energy demand and supply outlook for the APEC region. We also study and produce reports on various energy issues, including energy security for the APEC members. It is my honor to be invited to speak at this webinar. And on this occasion, I'd like to share our views on energy security issues in the Asia Pacific region, and in particular, the Southeast Asia sub-region. 2 weeks ago, I visited Europe for the first time after the COVID-19 pandemic in order to attend a large international conference in Florence, Italy. I met with many European energy experts, and they made clear how serious the ongoing energy crisis triggered by the Russia-Ukraine war is for European countries. They have been heavily dependent upon fossil fuel imports from Russia. Once they have to reduce such a dependence from Russia, the lack of heating fuels in winter is a matter of life and death for many European people. The seriousness of the energy crisis may not as serious in Asia, especially in Southeast Asia, as in Europe, since Asia is not as dependent on Russian energy as Europe. However, energy markets are internationally interconnected, and the supply disruption in Europe inevitably impacted energy prices in Asia. European experts whom I met in Florence explained me that they have been lucky this winter because it has been relatively warm in Europe. In addition, energy demand of China has been low due to COVID-19 pandemic. However, they fear such luck may not continue to next winter. They emphasize the need to further build stockpile of fuels, especially natural gas, toward next winter. I'm very afraid such additional fuel needs may tighten energy markets more towards next winter, even in Asia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ire Sensei. I think I do agree with you that this year the weather is not that severe. And also, it's very interesting that we do have a pandemic, which is a disaster, and at the same time giving us a benefit, which is the energy consumption is not that much. So yeah, we can really understanding those impact of the war, that the oil prices and gas prices increasing quite significantly in the last and this year. So I'd like to invite Mr. Satya Widyayudha for some short introduction and initial thought, and of course in setting that you may present it. Please.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Nuki, for your kind of introduction at the beginning. And my name is Satya Yuda. I'm a member of the National Energy Council. And it's been mentioned earlier that the scope of the National Energy Council is designing the energy policy, which become a reference for all people with regard to the Indonesia energy policy. So this is quite challenging time, after pandemic, and also the commitment of the government of Republic Indonesia to be net zero emission by 2060. It's going to revise a lot of the energy policy that has been produced in 2017. Yeah, probably you may know that we produce the what's so-called the National Energy Planning, where that's planning is basically executing the national energy policy that's been established long before that. But again, Indonesia commit to reduce the emissions because we are part of the Paris Agreement signatories. And also from time to time, we review our nationally determined contributions, included on my last visit in Sharm el-Sheikh for COP28. And it's quite, ambitious that we would like to really improve our NDC. We update it. So we like to reduce our emissions more than we committed before. Yeah, because in the past that we are committed by 2030 is around 318 million ton, but now this is improving, become 358 million ton of CO2 by 2030. So of course, Indonesia cannot stand alone. So we like to work together, and been mentioned also by my president when he was in Glasgow to attend the COP27 in Glasgow. It says that climate finance has become important. Yeah, the financing, that Indonesia cannot stand alone, that we need to work together. The collaborations, I think, among a country who has a same commitment is quite important. In this event, I'm really happy to join because of this is gathered by the ASEAN Energy Centre initiative, and I do believe that it makes our collaboration even stronger. Even though we know that ASEAN, as part of our charter, is we don't have any ASEAN directive like what happened in EU, but at least our common goals and also our exchange the idea among the ASEAN country is become a key. So our policy at the moment, we are considering with net zero emission by 2060. So we revise everything, and also we like to see also the commitment among the neighboring country, particularly for Indonesia. So we like to see that our neighbor countries also has a same visions, for decarbonize of the activities that we are currently doing. So in this regard, Indonesia is also looking at for further cooperations with Japan, for instance, on the nuclear issues. Yeah, how do we tackle the nuclear issues? Because of in this very difficult moment, after pandemic and also the tension between Ukraine and Russia, each country would like to secure themselves in terms of the energy. So Indonesia with huge resources on fossil fuel. So we declare that we don't want to phase out fossil. We don't want to phase out fossil, but we want to decarbonize fossil. That's quite different. Yeah, with my friend from Europe, for instance, they ban coal-fired plant by 2030. That's what Macron says. Indonesia doing the similar, but it's not exactly the same. Yeah, because of the carbonization has become our strategy to be net zero emission by 2060. So we like to implement all the technology that can decarbonize and reducing the emissions, like coal, we combine with co-firing, and also implementing, carbon capture and utilization storage, CCU, CCUS. Even though that is not really commercially viable yet, because I haven't seen any, CCUS, which is, can be quote unquote commercially affordable, but we like to see it happen in the future. We like to implement in the oil and gas sector. We like to implement in the coal-fired plants on the carbon captures. So nowadays, what we are trying to push the industry is to quantify their existing emission they are producing at the moment. And then we ask them to lower it down, by a certain period of time. It shows the responsibility for them to implement the net zero emission scenario. So that kind of stuff nowadays is really happening, in Indonesia. Each company, particularly on the state-owned enterprise, they like to innovate the technology. They'd like also to make a cooperations with other developed country, quote unquote, and also with the university, to do some research, in order to support the Indonesian policy, because we don't want to create the policy, but the lack of the implementation or difficult to be implemented. So we want to be consistent. So the cooperation between the governments and also the private sector and state-owned enterprise become a key in today's situation in Indonesia. So I think in this dialogues, I like to see that later on that we can exchange our idea, we can learn a lesson from other country in order for us to achieve our commitment. I do believe that all of you is climate change believer, is not deniers. So I do believe that we can have a constructive discussion in the short coming time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Satya Widya. I do agree with you that we need a strong cooperation starting from these neighboring countries. Yeah, totally agree with you. And decarbonize also something that we also agree on, rather than just directly phase out, for example, coal power plant. But instead of doing sudden exchange, we need to have a regular or gradual decrease, which is decarbonize, is one of very good option to reduce carbon dioxide. Thank you very much for your initial thought. After this, I would like to invite Mr. Toru Muta. Would like to ask you for introducing yourself, your initial thought for approximately 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Nuki, for your kind introduction. And my sincere congratulations on the launch of 2022 ASEAN Energy Highlights and the Outlook in ASEAN Energy 2023. Both are very timely and comprehensive report. Indeed, I was impressed. And already, Dr. Irie and Mr. Yuda mentioned very important issues with respect to the redesigning energy security in this region. So that is in short term energy security. So how to secure gas supply to this region, as well as other parts of the world, such as Europe. And in long term, the clean energy transition, which is, of course, very effective way to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels, which is now being imported from the abroad. So let me quickly add just 2 points. The first point is the issue of energy access. That is, based on our IES analysis, currently, the number of people who is lack of energy access. So that is, who is lack of access to electricity or access to clean cooking fuels, that types of, the number of that types of people has been increasing this year and last year. It is a very special moment because IEA has been monitoring the number of people who does not have the access to electricity for more than 10 years, and the number has been decreasing past decades. But due to the COVID pandemic and the current energy crisis, the number has increased. I think this is a very important point we should think about. And the second point is energy investment. Mr. Yuda already mentioned investment is very important. And based on our analysis, now the volume, the amount of investment is increasing. Over the past decade, the volume, the amount of investment did not change, even though there was a Paris Agreement in 2016, but the total amount of clean energy investment did not change. But 2021 and 2022, the global amount of energy investment has increased. This is because of after COVID stimulus package and current very strong actions of government, such as Inflation Reduction Act in US and Repower EU in Europe. That kinds of actions are now pushing up the amount of investment. And based on our analysis, the amount of investment in clean energy continue to increase in the decades to come. That is the important point to think about redesigning the security in this region. So I stop here to save time for further discussion with colleagues. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Muta-san. I do agree with you. The issues of energy access is, I think, still we do have a lot of homework in Southeast Asia alone. Approximately around 20 to 35% that we need to increase the access to the modern energy supply, both electricity as well as fuel, especially on the clean fuel. And also very interesting that the investment of RE increasing in the last 2 years, especially the RE investment. It's also happening in Vietnam that the RE investment is increasing quite significantly in the last 2 years. So it's happening around the globe. So for the next session, I would like to have a direct discussion. I think quite a straightforward discussion. We'd like to have some question and answer. Every panelist bound to answer approximately 4 to 5 minutes. So feel free to say anything. Don't hesitate to tell us the frank opinion from your side. So for the first question, I would like to address to Dr. Kazumoto Ire from Upper. How do you see the current global energy crisis, impacting energy security in the Asia Pacific region? And what do you think are the most challenges faced by countries in the Asia Pacific region?
Thank you for the question. Under the framework of APEC Energy Policy Cooperation, APEC produces the APEC Energy Demand and Supply Outlook every 3 years. Last year, we completed the 8th edition, forecasting energy situation of 21 APEC member economies towards 2050. APEC GDP is set to more than double up to 2050, while population is expected to peak in the 2030s and then be only slightly higher in 2050 than now. APEC energy demand and supply increased nearly 50% over the last 2 decades, but end-use energy demand will only grow a modest 14% from 2018 to 2050 in the reference scenario, where current energy policy and technological development will continue. In the Outlook's carbon neutrality scenario, demand peaks in the mid-2020s before declining to mid-2010s level in 2050. In this scenario, APEC member governments will introduce additional policy measures for decarbonization towards carbon neutrality. Renewable share, hydro, wind, solar, bio, and geothermal in power and heat generation, which is 37% in the reference scenario and 56% in the carbon neutral scenario in 2050, from 19% in 2018. However, fossil fuels remain substantial in the APEC energy mix. Even in the carbon neutral scenario, fossil fuels occupy more than half of total energy supply in 2050. Stable supply of fossil fuels is imperative for energy security in the region. In order to cope with climate change, decarbonization of energy mix is required in the APEC region. Among fossil fuels, switching from coal to gas, especially in power sector, is necessary. Therefore, natural gas supply will become more and more important to pursue both energy security and environmental sustainability. But in 2020, APEC exported more gas than it imported, resulting in a negative gas dependence ratio. However, as gas demand will grow rapidly by 2050, APEC gas import dependence will increase to 7% in the reference scenario and 11% in the carbon neutral scenario. That means the APEC region may face serious challenge to stable natural gas supply. These problems are most serious in the Southeast Asia sub-region of APEC. 7 of the 11 Southeast Asia countries are members of APEC. Cambodia, East Timor, Laos, and Myanmar are not members. But APEC Southeast Asia economies account for 96% of the GDP and 88% of the population of Southeast Asia total. So let me focus on APEC Southeast Asia economies. Toward 2050, APEC Southeast Asia GDP more than triples by 2050, and population increasing 1/5 to 2050 in our outlook. APEC Southeast Asia energy demand supply has almost doubled over the last 2 decades. But for the coming 3 decades, the sub-region is anticipated to have the highest energy demand growth of all the APEC regions. In the reference scenario, demand and supply will roughly double again. In the carbon neutral scenario, growth will be lower, but still significant. Demand will grow at 60% and the supply at 70%. Renewable share in power generation of APEC Southeast Asia reaches 34% in the reference scenario and 45% in the carbon neutral scenario in 2050 from 22% in 2018. However, fossil fuels continue to be substantial in the energy mix in APEC Southeast Asia. As natural gas production in the sub-region will decrease, stable supply of natural gas will be a challenge for the sub-region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sensei. I think very interesting finding and projection that you had in Asia Pacific region and Southeast Asia. So I would like to move to Mr. Satya Wijayuda.
Yeah.
How do you view the current global crisis, and what the role of Indonesia, which can support for redesigning energy security in Southeast Asia? So you have 5 minutes to.
Yeah, sure. Well, my quick comment actually is I repeated several times when I spoke internationally that the words has to be consistent. Yeah, because why I say that? Because in the middle of the crisis, it's been happening in China, in UK, yeah, lately, because of the tension between Ukraine and Russia, and also the oil prices goes up, and some of the country imported coal so much. You see, so I don't want to name it, but at least you know it. Yeah, so it shows that they are not that really consistent in terms of the reduction of the emissions. That's become a challenge, yeah, because what we like to see, whether the world is ups or and down, they have to be consistent with it, that we want to reduce the emissions. With regard to energy crisis that happen in the world, yeah, people tend to keep their energy security rather than comply with the Paris Agreement or comply with the reduction of the emission. That's happened like this. Yeah, even in UK during they do have a crisis, and because of the gas price is 5 times higher than before, and they want to reactivate coal-fired plant. It's not able to do so, and they want also to reactivate nuclear power plant. Yeah, so a lot of things changing immediately because of their crisis. So Indonesia doesn't want to repeat that mistakes. So why us probably as a country, as ASEAN countries, as a country in ASEAN, they don't use that example as a lesson learned. So we like to see that we are consistent as a country to comply with our Paris Agreement, and we decarbonize our resources, yeah, whatever they have. If they have, power, hydropower, for instance, in Vietnam, they can continue to do so because there's already clean. Yeah, but if they do have coal, please implement the technology that can lowering the emissions. So if those country, has a same strategy, so we redesign the strategy of the ASEAN with that directions. I do believe that we could, sustain our energy security rather than we just copy and paste from other country, which is probably is not applicable. So I think that's become a key. We like also, for Indonesia case to, of course, to change, some of our coal-fired plant, yeah, with other renewables energy sources. But we have to honor the contracts, and we cannot just terminate the contract immediately. So that's why we form the energy transition mechanism as a tools. I don't know whether you're familiar with that. How do we accelerate the retirement of coal-fired plants? And with that kind of scheme, where we still respect the lenders, we still respect the investors. And nowadays, with JETP coming up, with $20 billion US, is also one of the, the upside of the strategy to accelerate the retirement coal-fired plant. But at least, with the mechanism to give a way for the investor to switch from fossil to renewable, I think that's become our, our future direction. Probably that's what I can say so far.
Yeah, thank you. I do agree with you that the consistency should be there,
yeah,
especially the countries who really request us to reduce our emission. So the good example will follow with the good sample done by the country who's been requested to reduce the emissions. Very interesting. I do looking forward on the activities on ETM and JETP for Indonesia. Hopefully, it's going to be successful. Next question will go to Mr. Toru Muta from IEA. How do you see the current position of ASEAN in the global supply chain of energy sector? And what needs to be prepared for ASEAN in redesigning energy security within the region? And how do you see the current policies in managing energy demand in ASEAN? Perhaps you can answer it all, or you can pick two of those. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nuki. I'd like to answer these three questions part by part. So first of all, the first question is the current position of Southeast Asia in global supply chain. So I think there are three key ideas about this. That is, the first one is from the perspective of demand side, Southeast Asia is a global engine of energy demand growth in the decades to come, which means what kinds of energy goals and pathways are taken in this region is a big issue, not only for Southeast Asia itself, but also for global energy landscape. This is very important. That is the reason why we IEA also regularly publish Southeast Asia Energy Outlook with large support from ASEAN colleagues. And the second point to highlight is supply side view. As mentioned in the presentation already, Southeast Asia has been a major LNG exporter in the world, and actually, in the past, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei together have accounted more than 10% of global energy export in the past. But as mentioned in the presentation, this region is planning to a net gas importer in coming years, depending on the scenario. This is a very important point to think about the current position of ASEAN in the global supply chain. And the third point is, in my view, the new energy industry which is a keyword to think about. That is recent strong development of clean energy technology has brought a big opportunity to develop new industries such as EV batteries, solar panels, and wind turbines, and hydrogen equipment. These are new industries. And in my view, Southeast Asia is already grabbing a part of these types of opportunities. For example, automobile manufacturers in Thailand and solar panel component manufacturing in Vietnam and Malaysia, and in Indonesia and in the Philippines. There are abundant of resources of nickel, which is a major input to batteries. So that is also a very important point to think about the position of Southeast Asia in the energy landscape. And based on these observations, I would move to the second question. So that is how to redesign energy security of Southeast Asia. First, as discussed, the energy demand is increasing and energy fuel import dependency is also increasing, which means the basic measures for energy security remain effective and is getting more important in the years to come. So, for example, as already discussed, the diversity of supply, that is important. In addition, oil stockpiles also remain an important mechanism to protect against supply disruptions. So these measures are important. On top of that, as mentioned by Mr. Sivia Widya Yuda, green energy transition, particularly so accelerating green energy transition, is the key way to reduce today's energy security vulnerabilities in this region. In addition, we need to look at new energy security issues, such as managing flexibility of electricity system or securing critical mineral supply. These are also important. So I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Muta-san. I think critical minerals is very highlighted in any energy global discussion in the last 2 years. We really also concerned about that. So next question to Iri Sensei. How should ASEAN strengthen its cooperation for meeting energy security target of the region? So due to the limited time, I would like to ask you for 3 minutes maximum to respond to the question. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. First, let me identify energy security challenge for ASEAN from my viewpoint. Then let me discuss expected ASEAN's role. Then finally, I would like to propose possible APAC's role to contribute to such a challenge. For APEC Southeast Asia sub-region, it will be most challenging for each government to decarbonize their energy system while maintaining energy security. In other words, each government will have to struggle how to balance environmental considerations and economic growth. Unlike developed countries in Europe and North America, Southeast Asian countries have still increasing population and rapidly developing economy. And they cannot focus only on environmental considerations, of course. And in addition, I repeat in front of European energy experts again and again, very unfortunately, renewable sources are not so rich in Southeast Asia. Situated in a tropical zone, the wind conditions in Southeast Asia are not as favorable for wind power generation as in Northwest Europe. With a lot of rainfall, sunshine is not as abundant as in South Europe or North Africa. And there are many islands in Southeast Asia, and the grid connection difficult. If national grids are well interconnected, like in Europe, intermittency of photovoltaic and wind power generation are somewhat neutralized or compensated due to large grid system. Somewhere windy, somewhere sunny, even somewhere rainy and somewhere no wind. But unlike Europe, Southeast Asia cannot heavily rely on renewables for its decarbonization strategy. Therefore, low carbonization or decarbonization of fossil fuels is also important in Southeast Asia. Coal to gas switching should be pursued, and CCS for coal and gas bars should be considered. Not only green, but also blue hydrogen will be required. In this context, investment in gas sector is still needed for Southeast Asia. Gas will be a transitional energy from coal and continue to be a backup power fuel for intermittent renewables power generation. Therefore, ASEAN can cooperate for steady introduction of renewable energy. As a part of such cooperation, grid power expansion is important. Each ASEAN member is encouraged to complete the national grid system and interconnect with neighboring members. Also, ASEAN can cooperate for stable supply of natural gas. Pipeline interconnection should be considered, and joint stockpile of gas is worth consideration for abrupt shutdown of gas supply. So for APAC, in short-term purpose, APAC will continue to publish APEC Energy Overview, which compile energy situation and the energy policy of each APEC member annually. It will be a good reference for energy policy makers of APEC members' economies, including Southeast Asian members. APAC also publish its coal report, oil report, and gas report every year. These reports covers market situation and short-term outlook of each fossil fuel. They will be also good reference for policy makers on fossil fuel issues. In longer-term purpose, APAC will continue for establishing APEC Energy Demand and Supply Outlook 9th edition to be published in 2025. The target year of the 9th edition will be 2060. It will be the basis of designing energy policy, including energy security policy for APEC member economies, including in Southeast Asia. And both for short-term and longer-term purposes, APAC will continue APEC Oil and Gas Security Initiative project. Under this project, we will publish a research report on oil and gas security issues every year. We will decide a new topic, next topic for 2023. And we will restart an annual forum for officials of APEC members in charge of oil and gas security policy. This forum has been postponed due to COVID-19 pandemic. Also, we hope to organize a tabletop exercise for oil and gas security, which was planned to be held in Thailand but postponed also due to the pandemic. In close cooperation with the ASEAN Centre for Energy and other energy experts in the sub-region, we'd like to carry out these projects to be more relevant and more helpful for APEC Southeast Asia members. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Iri Sensei. Yeah, I think some of these approach needed to be done, coal to gas switching, the blue hydrogen. Then again, you mentioned about interconnection, something that currently we are doing. We're very proud on the Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore interconnection, and later on we becoming Indonesia to be connected with the other regional countries, and of course the Trans-ASEAN gas pipeline that currently we are doing with ASCOP. Thank you very much. I think you cover all those issues. Next question to Mr. Satya. Just brief questions, sir, and then perhaps you can answer it for 3 to 4 minutes. What are the supporting policies that can be strengthened by Indonesia and ASEAN to have better energy supply chain of ASEAN and probably to the world? Because critical minerals, metals currently becoming a very important materials
Mhm.
being looking forward by any countries in the world. So please.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, we should be able to transform from global value chains to the national value chains. So the industry has to follow the energy. So wherever the energy source coming from, then it needs to be supported by the industry, which is close by with the energy source. I think that's become, mutual benefit, between country within the ASEAN. By saying that, we don't want that, one country far left behind because all the energy sources are exported to another country within the ASEAN, and one country within the ASEAN is more developed than the others. I think we should, understand that concept. Yeah. So we like to see, either Japan or, or Singapore or Vietnam or Thailand, that they need, source of energy coming from Indonesia, for their industry. Please build the industry in Indonesia. Yeah, but vice versa. It's also, if we need some source of energy from other country, we should also build the industry close by to that source of the energy. By doing that, so it means that we are strengthening our regionals rather than just only individual country, respecting that individual country and has to, to strengthen their position economically and use, ASEAN as a what's so-called a stronger market rather than the extended market for others. Yeah, we built our own market here, yeah, and use the strength of our resources within the ASEAN. I can put example that, nowadays that Singapore, needs more power. Yeah, they tendered probably around 5 gigawatt, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, at least, we should help, by supplying power to Singapore, as well as like Indonesia, when we purchased the power from Malaysia in the border of Sarawak. This is also part of the cooperation between ASEAN countries. And we can do also for another aspect, we just mentioned about the Transgas pipeline, which is dormant for a while. Amazing. So we know that it's quite difficult because we don't have a unified gas prices. Yeah, because of, when one comes to Indonesia, if gas is used domestically, and then it's to be followed with domestic regulations, where the gas price is not a market price. Yeah, but we can sell another part of ASEAN, which is following the market economy. So that's also the unique of the ASEAN, countries, on their in its positions. I think a lot of things that we can work together though, because of just been mentioned earlier that Indonesia is not strong on wind. Okay, let's don't develop wind. We develop something else. Indonesia considered that we have a strong wind in the sea. So we like to develop the offshore wind later on, rather than the onshore wind. But we have a very strong on geothermal. Yeah, so let's work together on geothermals. Yeah, to support, and we can supply electricity. We can export it to wherever close by with the resources. This is also part of good cooperation and strategy together, rather than it's in country within ASEAN doing their own, which is sometimes contradiction one to another. I think we have to redesign that one and just see the common interests, the common goals, and work from there.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Mr. Satya. We have to strengthen our collaboration and cooperation. We have to build our own market, since it is projected by us that in 2050, the Southeast Asia will become the 4th largest economy in the world, together with China, United States, and also India. So last week in G20 in Bangalore, India, the issues of increasing the activities and trading on bioenergy also escalate. So it seems to be that Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand is part of the regional activities can also provide quite set of good amount of supply of bioenergy for the region, perhaps. Yeah, thank you very much. I do agree with you. For the last question, before I go to meet Dr. Ambia, to Mutasang, how do you see the role of financing for redesigning energy security in ASEAN? So it's more on the financing perspective from IEA point of view. Please, 3 minutes for you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Nick. Yes, so the role of financing. So in my view, financing or investment is exactly the key to make the redesigning happen. Very important. And to make the investment itself happen, government policy is crucial. For example, if governments set national targets of energy, the private sector can be more convinced of investing in energy projects, particularly in longer term. Also, if governments implement well-designed support mechanisms for green energy, also private sector can be more convinced of investing in new projects, relying on that support mechanism. So to boost investment, first, government policy is crucial. And actually, in the presentation today, there are lots of policy movement is already going. For example, the direct power purchase agreement policy draft in some regions, that kind of movement is very important to boost investment. And in this context, it is very difficult to say what to be prioritized for investment, because there are many areas to be investment. But at least for longer term, so in longer term, as Mr. Yuda mentioned, it is necessary to boost clean energy investment. And to boost clean energy investment, government policy is very important. And lastly, let me mention one lesson from past, that is oil crisis in 1970s. We have learned lots of things from this period, that is energy efficiency had improved dramatically during that period. Before the oil crisis, fuel economy was 18 liters for 100 kilometers for an average car, but it had improved to just 10 liters for the same distance. In addition, 40% of current nuclear reactors in the world were built during 1970s. So crisis can give us the opportunity to accelerate new technology, which can address the challenges we are being faced. That is my answer to the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mutasang. Yes, definitely. History answered the question, which is a very good example. 1970, because of the oil crisis, the technology improved very much on the efficiency, especially on the vehicles. I do agree with you, and hopefully for the coming years, we're going to improve a lot on the power generation, as well as, of course, the vehicle itself and vessels for transporting quite heavy load. The next question, last question, I think I will address to Dr. Ambia Abdullah. You can answer approximately 3 minutes, Dr. Ambia. How do you see the most challenges will be faced by ASEAN in securing energy supply in the region?
Thank you, Dr. Nuki, and thank you all the panelists, Ide Sensei and Pak Satya and Mutasang. Thank you very much. If I would like, I think most of the challenge has been discussed along 3 panelists. One is related to the stable energy supply that ASEAN need to think for the future scenario, like the report of AEO7 also mentioned that that's my colleague Rika also mentioned in her presentation, that we will become net importer of the gas in 2039, I think, although now we are still in the good condition. And the second one is in that one, diversification of energy supply will be needed. And also the development, strengthen the development of the clean energy that's Mutasang and Iriasense also mentioned, will be also crucial. And also another one that's interest my thought is what Pak Setia is on the regional integration. That's we cannot stand alone. And related to that, the point mentioned by Mutasang on financing and also Iriesang on emergency measure on the how to securing the short-term stockpiling and also develop the pipeline of the gas pipeline also important, I think. And related to that one, if I may add, on in terms of the regional integration is actually in my thought is also the strengthening or improving the data quality in terms of the supply and demand. Supply means like how much we have the stock of the energy source in the ASEAN region. Also, how much the energy consumption that Pak Setia also mentioned that industry need to provide, like not only in terms of their energy consumption, but how much like emission will be reduced is also important, because without good quality and robust of data of this would be difficult for us to start our redesign of the long-term both short-term emergency measure for any kind of the shock happen along the global supply chain, but also for the long-term of the ASEAN energy security design. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ambia. Yes, one of the challenges to improve our energy planning is the data collection. Yeah, should be updated. Again, thank you very much, panelists, and also apologize for the people who attend. And I saw a lot of questions over there, but unfortunately, the time is not in our in our side. So basically, we have to end this very interesting discussion. But anyway, our team will respond through this message directly by direct message. And to conclude this very special and interesting session, I would say that the securing energy supply, we should start with a variety of energy, which means that technology, investment, and efficiency should be part of it. So variety of energy, not limited by the resources that we have right now, but optimizing the resources that we have in the region is the first thing that we need to do before we capturing other resources from other regions. I do agree that strengthening the market is important. Utilizing our own resources to provide the energy supply to the region should be the priority. Switching coal to gas as part of the energy transition and including the blue hydrogen is important to do, because it's basically increasing the capacity of the technology and interconnections. It is quite important, because the bigger the grid, the better we can absorb energy supply from VRE. Because a lot of example that without a strong grid, a big grid, rather difficult to increase the VRE. Sometimes people are misunderstood about that. They ask us to push ahead, to push forward on the increasing RE, but they forgot to increase the capacity of the grid. So the government policy is important. I think we need to, this is our homework. So we will convey this message to our member states that they have to strengthen the policy. And for Indonesia side, perhaps Mr. Satya can also convey the message the same. And we can meet in the middle later on in this summit in Bali, perhaps in September. The energy ministerial meeting will be happening in August, so hopefully we can meet face to face. And thank you very much. I think this is very interesting discussion, and hopefully that we can talk and meeting face to face to all of you and others attendees. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
So thank you so much, Dr. Nukia Gautama, for your presentations on the summary of the panel sessions. Now I would like to ask my colleague to share the next slide, please. Next again. Unfortunately, Dr. Zulfikar would not share his presentations, but I would like to reiterate again and reinform again, because some of you probably have the issues on. Can you go to the next slide, please? To the last slide, please. That you have encountered several issues on the link to access the reports. Please do make sure that you put the link with the HTTP / so, but also if you can access them from your phone, it's possible to write just go.aseanenergy.org/AEO7 or go.aseanenergy.org/fossil fuel 2022, electricity 2022, renewables 2022, efficiency 2022, and Outlook 2023, or everything actually in one place in our website. So just please head on to www.aseanenergy.org for your further information. And we look forward to see you again. Apologize for some technical issues in the end, but we are actually receiving, we are going to send the presentations to you via email, so please don't worry about it. And thank you so much for attending this event. May I check with you, with our team, to share the video of AEO7 while we are closing the session. And thank you so much for Dr. Iri, Mr. Muta, and then Mr. Satya as well. Thank you so much and have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.